Alrighty, again, this is just We the People News. Okay? Alright, I'm arm length from the video, and I'm not an attorney, not giving legal advice, just my opinion at times, no more, no less. Okay? What can I say? That's what kind of threw me for a loop, and I guess when I was listening to it, I wasn't 100% paying attention when I first had this on, because I was doing research myself. I've been staying pretty busy. All right. Educational purposes only, YouTube. All right. These are We the People News. Let's proceed forward.
Guess who I'm going to interview regarding the placenta, birth, and how much she knows about what's going on behind the scenes on the paperwork end.
But the whole thing is, the umbilical cord is supposed to fall off by itself, and it can take up to 2 hours to fall off. And it keeps the baby's life support system, so you don't shock the baby into trauma when you force the baby to breathe. When the umbilical cord falls off by itself, the baby starts breathing naturally.
Oh my God. You guys, I want to hug all of you because it makes sense. I need to, oh wow. I need to get this set up fast as possible and all the information that you can give me. The reason I have, and I would have to do it in a subtle way. I don't even have a following. I have 1,700 people I have access to. But I have to become and get everything organized because at my church and different businesses I'm affiliated with, they come anyway and ask. And I could call 100.
I'm going to pause that right quick. Speaking of church, okay? We talked about past videos with the military flag. The goats syringe around the flags in the courtroom, right? And the goats flags around the church, inside the church, okay? Now, there's supposed to be separation in church and state. However, explain to why. There's a military flag in church and a military flag in courts. Okay? Now, in my area, okay, my court building is actually closed down due to renovations. But where did they stick the courts now, y'all? It's actually at a church. It's inside a church right now. The ignorance of that church, right? Separation of church and state, but yet give it to, government. Right? Whatever code, 501 or 50B or something like that, right? Asking permission to have tax deduction when there is no legit reason to ask. All right, it's a separation. You don't need churches. You don't need permission. Dum-dums. Follow your heart. Oh my goodness, the ignorance. All right, I'm ranting Raven, okay? But anyway, since they brought up the church, it brought up my attention in my area. With the military flag in churches, military flag in the courtroom. Since the court has been closed down, it moved to a freaking church. All right, let's proceed forward.
To people now and share this information that you've given me once I have crystal clarity in regards to how to reverse this, because not just the courthouse is going through this, general population was ignorant to this process. And nobody is trying to assist. Even the auctioneer tugged my arm and said, I had so much to tell you. I have to call him back. He does the auctions for this Mobile County right in front of the courthouse, right in front of the door. They do it 3 times a month. And they sell these properties.
Everybody can stop those? Seriously?
Ma'am?
Anybody who's having their properties ripped off, I mean, you're gonna have to organize because they're doing this through the newspaper. All right, you're gonna have to get a copy of the newspaper, and every day you're going to have to get somebody going through the announcements and highlighting all this stuff in the announcements and contacting these people. Because once you do that, then they can go down to the recorder's office and they can do the land deed and the deed trust and this, that, and everything else.
Right.
And they can probably find the original one from the day they signed it, which had not yet gone over to the trust company. And they can find that one, and then they can retitle it and reclaim it, and they can stop these forced sales.
Good
I did it
resource.
in Arizona. I actually didn't, but I had a friend help somebody do it because I didn't have time.
A good resource
Well,
for you is a book called Land Patents by Ron Gibson.
I haven't.
Land Patents by Ron Gibson. I just spoke with him 48 hours ago, which that's a bucket lister for me because he's amazing. Wow.
Ron
He's what I call OG in this game. He's one of the originals, him and Winston Schrott and folks like that who, we kind of take for granted in all the research that we've done, but they really laid the highway for us to be where we are in this game here that we find ourselves. And absolute, that's a gem. You want to get back to that original land patent, and then they can't even touch that property because you've gone to the land.
Well, the thing that you
taken the land.
This is another. Oh my God! And I'm sorry, my brain is working now. I mean, overtime. They just built a museum here. The last slave ship that was here. I don't quite understand all of what they're doing, but make a long story short, the land that was surrounding that area before the museum bought it, they had to go through me to get them to do the writ in order for them to take the property. And these people, and this is maybe what you can help me understand, they didn't pay the deed, they didn't pay anything, and let it go because they thought it was insignificant. It was 3 family members that owned it. The museum contacted them through the court. Well, they filed in court. They still had to pay them to give up all the rights to this property for about $5,000 to $10,000, I'll say $15,000. And they're supposed to be building this museum. That's one thing that my brain is spinning on because so many people were involved in that. And it was frustrating because I'm trying to do writs of distress, writs of execution to get this for the attorney for the museum.
All right, let's back up a second. Now, on this property crap, okay, or any other case, right? They say you're going to have to sign paperwork. Signing paperwork is giving consent. You're volunteering. It may be an order from the judge, but even the order from the judge cannot force you into signing anything that is unconstitutional on its face value. Okay? I do not have to sign anything. Period. And they cannot force me to sign anything, constitutionally speaking, and not an attorney, not giving legal advice. This educational opinion. Alright, so I know a man that the court's ordered to sign, and he would not sign, and the judge told him, well, you going to sign? And he said, absolutely not going to sign. And to this day, he has not signed, and to this day, they still can't take his property. The court says, well, he has not signed it, so therefore we cannot proceed forward on this case. As today, that's still there. All right? And he still lives on the land, by the way, because, well, he didn't consent to the order. He didn't waive his rights. Now, that don't mean they're not going to have any sneaky ways going behind closed door and all that, but, it is what it is at this particular present time. He's still on the land. The courts don't have no jurisdiction because he never complied with the order. He never volunteered to sign anything, people. They want you to sign. mislead you, trick you, and fool you into waiving your rights. That's the reason why I tell you, even getting pulled over by the cops. Read me my Miranda rights. I'm under arrest or you've been detained. I don't care. Read me my Miranda rights. All right. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be held against you in court of law. Do you understand these rights? Absolutely not. However, you read me my Miranda rights. Well, we need to see driver's license registration. And under the Fifth Amendment, I'm not to incriminate myself, and you cannot force me to incriminate myself. Because the law says to identify yourself, but the Constitution nowhere in there says you have to identify yourself at all or incriminate yourself at all. Again, it's left open. Goes back to the 10th Amendment. All right? What's left open is for the state or people. Or people. All right? I do not have to incriminate myself. I do not have to give them ID and insurance and registration. Okay? That's incrimination. You're waiving your rights once you do. Okay? That is the beginning process of court. Number 2, the officers or executive orders, they cannot make legal determination, which is the reason why you stand on demanding more, at least minimum 3 times. I want to see the magistrate before you send me to jail, right to due process. Of course, don't like to be woke up 3 o'clock in the morning, but they get woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to issue a freaking warrant. And to have people banging your house at 3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, the judge can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. All right, calm me down. Calm me down.
I have to get organized ASAP, just as soon as I get this thing filed, because I could call 100 people to a workshop and facilitate it, but I have to give the clear process of doing this, and I'm going to have to do it quickly because I've gotten calls this week and last week. They don't know I'm not there right now. They want to do the trust thing to basically protect their assets. And ask me about a dynasty deed. I'm not quite sure the distinction between a dynasty deed and this type of deed and that type of deed, but I'm going to take the information that you guys give me and kind of get organized quickly and get to running with it, because I had no idea that this was this detailed. And I'm still learning, but people want to know this now. And just my family alone, I have 8 sisters and 7 brothers. So just my family alone, just trying
Anita, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Go back to 1863. Alabama was one of the 35 states of the Union in 1863. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, on the 9th of November in 1863, Abraham Lincoln stood at Gettysburg Address and gave the Gettysburg Address, which literally pulled 35 states into a trust under Abraham Lincoln. He created the trust to protect the United States from invasion. Okay? So when he did this, President Lincoln was the executor of the trust. The Congress was the was the trustees, and every person in the state were the beneficiaries of this trust. Well, when Lincoln was assassinated, he was no longer the grantor or the creator of the trust. So now, whoever becomes the president now becomes the executor. He becomes the executor of the trust. So 35 states sit in this trust and have sat in it since 1863. So if we can go back through 1863 and get the land patents back then, literally you can get and recover most of the stuff from those 35 states. And believe it or not, the military has stepped in. Yes, you can, because it's under a trust and it's under protection. And the military has stepped in, and they are the trust protectors of these 35 states right at the moment, and they're not releasing them until this mess gets cleaned up. They're actually protecting the states. the military. So I do know this because I dug all into it, and I have so much verification of it.
The military
I'm sorry.
and the post office, Anita. The post office,
The post office
is the only thing, and I'm not talking the U.S. Postal Service. The United States Post Office is the only real vestige of our republic that we have left, right? The postmasters all across this nation are actually guarding our trusts as well. And this is one of the many things that I've done in the very recent past is set up my bank account with the head bank. Why not deal with the head bank?
The post office.
Oh my God!
Set up your trust. Have them as the trustees, with them having the liability. You can do all these things if you really get down in this rabbit hole. You can do so many things to really set yourself aside, protect your heirs, your property, do everything using their system. They set it up perfectly.
And this is what I was praying about this yesterday. I promise, guys, I was praying about this yesterday because me being in that position, so I just talked with the sheriff the other day. It feels like we have nobody to help these people since you're gone. But I'm going to call them back. And I just want to be solid in my understanding. So when I am facilitating these I call them workshops, because so many people are in need of this information, and I have access to these people. I think this is my new job. They just asked me yesterday.
I'll be honest with you.
Join the club. We meet here every day.
I'll be honest with you, Anita. The whole thing
yes,
is,
ma'am.
the post office is literally in Washington, D.C. So after the war, they filed bankruptcy because they couldn't pay the debt. And when they signed the contract of 1783, they literally signed over the 13 colonies as collateral for the debt that Benjamin Franklin created for borrowing the money. And Benjamin Franklin was the first one in 1775 to actually file bankruptcy for the Revolutionary War.
Well, I think this is University of South Alabama held all of the land patents, the older land, the original land patents, and at Circuit Court, they had a flood in one of their warehouses that messed up the paperwork. They had several families, or I say heirs to the family, that wanted to try to obtain the original patents from downtown Mobile, because it was two families that owned it. But I believe, this is what I believe they just destroyed that because they would lose the jurisdiction over it. The state would. And my supervisor physically came and took the entire file and the entire everything and told me I better not touch it. Now I see why. Because they had an attorney out that I can't remember where he's from. It wasn't New Orleans because they're under French law. But they were trying to get that. And our warehouse, I watched them laugh and not even make an effort to try to find the original and they have some that go back to 1800s, but not many at all. And they're literally in the doorway of domestic relations down at the courthouse. No one knows where the others are. So if they don't have the original documents or they've been destroyed, how would they obtain that? Because I do remember 2 years ago, someone trying to find the originals from I don't remember if it was 1863 or not, but it was in the 1800s, the original to get something done. They were working in probate, so imagining it was the trust as well as the land. And I think they did it on purpose because he had two attorneys working on that, and they just kept referring him back to the University of South Alabama, who supposedly had the originals from I thought it was 1893, but I would say 1863. How could they get that if the original original key and patents are no longer available?
Oh, they're still available because the original patents were actually issued by presidents, right? So that's a national record. it's not the only place that they hold those records is at that state capitol. It's going to be on a national level. So they've got the records.
And also
They
the
just didn't want to give it to them. Okay. Oh my God, you guys, my brain. I'm thinking of all the people that, and I didn't understand. I was ignorant to the process, but now from what you guys are giving me, because they have to go through, and I would refer them to the commissioner's office or probate to get the key numbers and the actual, what would they call it? Oh, wait a minute, I almost said it. Legal copy, the actual legal copy of those properties. Legal description, I'm sorry, I think, Anita, the legal description of the copies out of the commissioner's office or probate court. So
The legal description, Anita, just for clarification, just for some quick education, the legal description is not the land, right? That legal description is an overlay that they put over the land, right? And they just give that a number and a street and all this crap, and frankly, you can go ahead and give that back to them because that's what they deserve. Let's go ahead and put it at the post office. Say, here's your property. Quit claim deed it, and say, I'm on the land. This is my land. Get your stinking address to off my land. So there's a couple of things that you can do in that.
Okay.
regard.
Let me give you another clue, Anita. They are not foreclosing on the home. They are not foreclosing on the land. They cannot. All they're doing is selling the address. That's it. Just like what he was just telling you. You got to get back to the original, get all that crap off, and get the address off of your piece of land, and they can't touch it. It all deals with that address they put you under, because they cannot.
They can have the address.
They cannot foreclose on your home. All they can foreclose on is the address.
Okay. Wow.
All this is a legal description. That's it. It doesn't contain any real property.
It's a fiction.
Yes, the dowels, or what do they call it? Keys and dowels. I don't quite understand it, but
Meets and bounds.
Meets and bounds is what the property should be described.
Meets and bounds, that's right. I was trying to remember that. Meets and bounds. So, oh my God. Okay.
That's one of the things that Chris is on here with us, and Josh. We actually want to, as part of our service, because we want to open up firm that does these type of services for people, and that's one of the things that we want to actually have is surveyors that survey in meets and bounds, because this is where we really need to go to get our properties and our real property back, is to have these properties described in meets and bounds, so that way we actually bring things back to the land jurisdiction, which is really where we should be,
Okay.
So another resource, Anita, for those people also out there who want to look into their mortgage scenario, whether it's either foreclosure or you just want to have the fraud brought forward. Is one of my friends. His name is Sean Adley. He owns a company online called MortgageAuditsOnline.com. If anybody wants to use his service, you can go there and tell them the Bad Wolf sent you. It'll be discounted.
Kevin too, I know Sean.
Okay, yeah, super fire guy. Yeah, all the good ones run in the same circles. And Sean helped me out with mine, and we're just finishing that up. But because of the mortgage fraud that was done, once you go through this process, you get a packet of information where you submit that to your servicers, and they are forced to give you your house paid off because of the fraud. And then he also does the same work with people who are in or going through foreclosure. And last I talked to him, they were saying that they were able to get people's houses back within a certain amount of time because of the foreclosure fraud. After a certain amount of time, he said it becomes harder, so you can be compensated for it. You may not get the physical house. So, but if you check him out, he's a wonderful guy, wonderful resource. They've got lots of information just to even just read for yourself. You can just go there. So once again, that's Mortgage Audits Online, Sean Adley, and you can tell him that the Bad Wolf sent you, and he'll take care of you guys.
Also check into when they sold the mortgage thing, because they can only hold on to it for 5 years, guys. They can only hold on to that loan for 5 years. So it's sold within the first 5 years. Find out when they transferred it to Freddie and Franny. They transferred it over to Freddie and Franny. It's an automatic payment from the U.S. government. There is an insurance policy that will pay the debt.
Yeah. So one of the things too is that, along with what she was saying, is that they have to show a record of that on MERS, the Mortgage Electronic Registration.
All right, we're going to pause there. Okay. My long videos, apologies, but this has been a long process. A lot here. Again, go to James C. Lovelet to get the full description. Mine's broken down for me, myself. And for some of y'all, just don't know where to, retention order there and try to ease does in the process. These will be the people news. Bye, y'all.